It's a treat to speak to you. I've loved so much for your work, all about Nina, Fargo, Ahsoka, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Scott Pilgrim, of course, and then you can add this to the list. So,
Thank you so much.
what were some of your first thoughts when you had the idea of jumping back into the Scott Pilgrim world was brought to you?
I think my initial thoughts were just like, oh my God, it would be so much fun. I didn't think about it too deeply other than just what a great opportunity it would be to get to bring us all back together again because we all love each other so much and just love this material. Like, it's the kind of thing you work on that you just think, God, I wish I could do something like that again. Like that was just amazing. So I think it was just a very easy yes to make without putting too much thought into it. And then actually getting the scripts and then stepping into the recording booth, it was like, oh wow, this is so much deeper than I really even anticipated. It's so beyond just a fun reunion. It means a lot more. So yeah, it was an incredibly special thing to get to go through.
That's awesome. And that seems to be like the consensus. I spoke with Brian and Ben David before it premiered, and there's just so much enthusiasm. But it's not just we're going to get to jump back in. It's let's re-explore this in a different way,
Yeah.
and that's it's been just a joy to watch because I didn't expect it. People talk big, and then you go,
Yeah.
but this one, seconds in. Well, at first I was like, this seems like a redo. They're just like
Yeah.
remaking it, and then it blows up. So it's been just a treat again.
Yeah. I was just saying, I think that's just been kind of experience for everybody. It's just I'm just blown away by how they were able to kind of bring the history of these characters and the books and everything that Brian started, and also bring the sort of entire history of the last 10 years of all of our lives, and then kind of like infuse it with that. It's just I'm so proud of what they were able to accomplish.
And you were just a kid when they made the film, or when you made the film. Your life has changed so much, both career-wise and your personal life. How has your understanding of Ramona evolved since you first played her?
Oh gosh. I mean, she's a character that has stayed with me, ever since then. And she's someone that I always go back to. And my experience of playing her is something that I always go back to. Um, and just thinking about myself and my own life and my own progression as a person, I think being so young, you know, I think I was playing a lot more roles where I was sort of like the girl in the movie, and then kind of going forward trying to be the one who's making the choices and who has the agency and is being proactive. And so I always had this huge love and connection to Ramona, but I always kind of wanted to do a bit more with her. So to get to kind of come to this point to be able to explore her further and to sort of get to have different sides of her and different shades to her, and kind of flesh her out into this very full person, was like it meant a lot to me. And I could feel that Brian and Ben David, really wanted to give her that as a character, and that was really really special.
Yeah, because the perspective watching the film the first time, and I've become a parent since, and it's just a different feel. I mean, the way I revisited the film, and not the second time, but the more recent watch is
Yeah.
just such a different thing as an adult, as someone who's got
Yeah.
responsibilities, and that punk rock part of life is kind of gone and pushed aside, and you have to do soccer practices and things like that. So just
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The things that were important at that time or seemed so important don't seem so important now. And to be able to kind of look back at your former self and go like, it's all going to be fine. None of that even
yeah.
matters anymore.
Yeah, that big
Yeah.
massive mountain that you thought you had was the molehill,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
journey just started. So this time around, there's so much more focus on Ramona. I'm curious, what are some of the favorite aspects of Ramona that they got to explore, or you got to explore during this series?
I think there's so much. I think getting to see, sort of what makes her tick a little bit more. We get to go a little bit further into her backstory with each of the exes and kind of why things ended up the way that they did. We get to feel kind of why she does have these feelings for Scott, and get to see her sort of want the best for him and have these genuine kind of loving feelings towards him, which we didn't really get to see explored before. And those are all different shades of her as a person, that create kind of a whole, and to get to go on a journey with her and to see where she ends up at the end of the series, was really meaningful, from the perspective of a young woman who's maybe feels like her life is being defined by her relationships, who maybe feels like she's being locked into this box of being a manic pixie dream girl, even though that's not who she is. So it's kind of like getting to take the film version of her and getting to kind of break it open a little bit, which I loved.
That's beautifully put. And it's great that she's much more than her hair color, because that's what people always point out. And
Exactly.
as a father of two daughters, there's so much more to them than people know. And I go, you know what? I don't think you know them from even a few second conversation. There's they're just learning, and this is kind of what happens on this. We really got to see Ramona from a different lenses. It's not even like a steady
Yeah.
re-exploration of her. It's like from through all the different relationships, you get all
Many
these different
different
aspects and
and
facets.
even the hair color, we sort of get to see that from a different perspective, where
Hmm.
we see it in the anime, and it's almost like dyeing her hair is like a form of self-care for her. It's like her therapy. She's having these quiet moments where she's doing this ritual with her hair, and it's much less about being this kind of cool rebel and more about just getting to kind of start fresh and coming from a more internal place, I think. So it's all these little details that, were really lovely.
Yeah, the you work on this and being animation, you do the voice work, and then it kind of gets pushed away, and you step away from the project, and then the magic happens, or the second rounds of magic, and third and fourth. What was it like? What was your reaction when you got to see this anime world come to life with the music and the animation and
I
just
was
all
just
of it?
blown away. I just thought it was so beautiful. And kind of every step of this process for me, I've just been more and more blown away by it. It was like the scripts were so surprising and wild and unexpected. And then the process of recording it was so kind of emotional. And then getting to see it all come to fruition in its entirety. And I just thought, God, this is just such a beautiful work of art that they created. And I'm just really so proud to be a part of it.
It really is. And when people hear, oh, they're doing an animated version, it's easy to kind of dismiss it and say,
Yeah.
but it's not. I mean, I've been telling people, I saw a few episodes, this is months ago, and I couldn't talk about them. I'm like, you trust me, when it comes out, watch it. This is not something
Yeah.
this is not an afterthought. This is an extension of these characters in this world. So
Yeah. And I think you might have said, but it's sort of a re-examination of that kind of work that we did before. It's sort of re-examining everything about those characters, and even the film gets examined, in a way, through this sort of like film within a film that happens, which I think is just so smart and great. And so you're really getting to kind of look at everything about the history of that film and of making it, and these characters, and kind of just open it all up. It's great.
what are ways you find you're most like Ramona, and ways that you find you're very different from her?
um I think that I can be, or I have been at least in the past, I can be guarded in the same way that she is, with people, of sort of like, taking your time before you really show all of yourself to someone, and sort of trusting in that way. I think I could definitely understand why she takes a little time to kind of, to warm up to everyone, because she has a lot of history of sort of, not really knowing kind of who she can trust in that way. So I can understand that, and I can understand the feeling of being a young woman and being sort of objectified in a way. And I think she really experiences that on a lot of levels and has to sort of like trudge through, like you said, being judged for the color of her hair or the way that she dresses or the shoes she wears, or whatever, of being sort of one of these people that, um, get sort of boxed into this what it is to be a sort of quirky young woman idea. And so I think, certainly I don't, that's not who I am now, but I can relate to that in a kind of past version of myself. So I can be that part of Ramona and also be the part of her that grows beyond that and out of that.
That's great. And would you be willing to revisit again? I know they said this is not going to be season one. This is a standalone piece, but I was thinking, like, you know what? As everyone gets older, why not revisit the world with the characters growing up, and then where they more mundane lifestyle, and then this energy from the graphic novels and everything else
Yeah.
resurfaces. If you want to produce it, I'll
Right.
take a ready credit.
I mean, there's no denying it would be so much fun. I mean, there's no denying how much we all love this source material and love to keep coming back to it. And just the cast and everything about it is so great. But, I think what makes this project so special is that it was sort of a decade in the making of thoughts building and ideas that have led to it. So, I'm not really sure that there's another story to tell right now. I mean, that's not my decision to make it. And if there is a story, if Brian has if he's got an idea kind of ready to go, I think we all trust him enough at this point to go, yeah, we'd be on board. But I have a feeling that it would take a little more time to go, okay, where would it go next? And what story would they be telling? That would have that same kind of lightning in a bottle that I think this has really captured.
Yeah, I mean, if it's time to put a period on the end of the sentence instead of a comma, I think it's the best thing. It's best for the characters. You've kind of come to that point. You're like, this is, maybe this is it.
Yeah, you always want to end strong. You always want to end on a bang, and I think at least we know that we would have done that with this.
And my idea now, thinking about it, sounds like the worst idea ever. So I'll just cut that out. And I'll close real quick with 3 words to describe Ramona.
To describe Ramona?
Yes.
I think she's complicated, loving, and hard.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you so much for your time and your work in the series and the film. And I mean, if this is the end, we ended at a great place. So it's exciting for the fans and exciting to speak to you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. So nice to speak to you too, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Bye now.
Bye.